Good Erev Shabbos, my holy sisters and brothers. Good to be with you on a Friday. Thank God Shabbos is almost here. We all need that lift. But of course, we pray for the safety, the security of Israel. May peace be reestablished soon in a secure manner. Let's light up the darkness. Who's in the house on a Friday? Yehudit, wishing everyone Shabbat Shalom from Florence, South Carolina, Sharon in New Jersey, John in Maine, Shandor in the Bronx, Bill in Mid-Missouri, Gordo in Scotland. Always great to see you here. Leona in Illinois, Paul in the Great Northwest, Karen in Northern California, Sandy in Michigan, Leona. Oh, my dear. It sounds like your neighbor friend is very ill. May they have a miraculous recovery, a full recovery. Also, Ella says, Shalom. Marjorie, may the one who creates peace in the heavens bring peace to us and to all of Israel. And we say, Amen. 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 Oh, says Shalom. B'mermav hu yaseh Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Ifa says Shalom. Gwen from Michigan in the house. Welcome, everybody. Quick thought. Been sharing some thoughts on the situation just briefly at the top of our class each day. I did a little research last night. I was really thinking about this. What is the question before all of us right now? What everyone is talking about. Who is permitted to live in the Holy Land? Who may live in the Holy Land? The Jews have sovereignty in the land of Israel now. And so the question is, who else may live there, right? There's many people living there who are not Jews, and everything's just fine, right? With the Israeli Arabs, Israeli Christians, Israeli Druze. And we have other people there who hate Jews and have murdered Jews, raped Jews, desecrated Jews, because they claim they want to live there. Now, the sages spoke about this issue. Who is permitted to live among the children of Israel? The Torah calls this the Ger Toshav, the resident alien, the stranger who lives among us. And the sages speak on this in Avodah Zarah 64b, Tractate Avodah Zarah, Daf 64b. Who is the Ger Toshav? He is one who accepts upon himself to live among the children of Israel and to observe the mitzvahs b'nei Noach, the 7 Noahide laws. Those are listed, Sanhedrin 56a, I believe. And the 7, and the way they're actually listed in the Gemara is a little bit different in order than the way they're often cited. But this is the way they're listed in the Gemara. Number 1, a law-abiding society, right? Established courts of law. So to the first mitzvah, and these are the 7 Noahide laws. These are the laws, the mitzvahs, the commandments that all human beings are obligated in. These are the basic laws of humanity, according to Torah. Jews as well as non-Jews. All of us are sons and daughters of Noah, right? Noah, after the flood, everything was destroyed, and we're the descendants of Noah. And so the first law is to establish courts of law, i.e., to live in a law-abiding society. Second law is don't curse God. Third is don't worship idols, right? Don't perform idolatry. Number 4, no rape. Number 5, no murder, no bloodshed generally. Number 6, no robbery. And number 7, don't tear a limb from the living. Now, if you can't commit to live by those laws, then no. You may not live in the Holy Land. So there are plenty of people who are willing to abide by those laws. They can live there. People who are not willing to live among the children of Israel, people who are not willing to live by those laws, cannot live there. I took a picture yesterday. I'm not going to get into a whole political discussion, but it's enough to say that the people who can't live there, who shouldn't live there, and the practical question that always comes up is, well, where should they go? They have ancestral claims on this land, not nearly as old as our ancestral claims, but it really doesn't matter. They've given up their right to live there. And where will they go? The issue basically, what people are saying is there's a vast land of Arab countries, Muslim countries. I mean, it's so big that the curvature of the earth is involved. Morocco, Algeria, Somalia, Sudan, Iran, Iraq, Oman, Yemen, Syria, Lebanon, Turkey. If you go further east, Indonesia, Bosnia. There's so many countries where Islam is the religion. So many countries where Arabic is the language that is spoken. And you're telling me that in all that vast space, there's no room for these people? Because why? Why? Because they're so violent and disruptive and nobody wants them? So therefore, the tiny Jewish land, I mean, it's so tiny that when you look at a map of that whole Muslim world, 22 countries, 500 million people, you can barely even see Israel. See, what the lie that's told is people always show you this map, and this was Palestine, a country which never existed, and the Jews came and they made Palestine smaller and smaller, and you're just looking at that country of Israel. But when you look at it in the context, this vast landmass where you can barely see Israel, so no one can take them in because they're so violent and disruptive? So why should the Jews take them in, where their avowed mission is to kill Jews, which they've demonstrated? And then the last thing I'll say is today I saw a report on CNN, of all places, that the IDF has dropped millions of leaflets in Gaza saying, we're coming in, evacuate, go south 3 miles. I mean, it's, an hour walk, maybe. Go south 3 miles, evacuate Gaza City to avoid loss of civilian life. That's how the Israeli army operates. And the Hamas leadership said to the people, you may not leave. Do not leave. Stay and die. What more do you need to know? Let's learn some Torah. That's our job. Oh, I'm sorry. The last thing I wanted to say, and this is why I mentioned this whole thing. So what I said was the Ger Toshav, the resident alien, right, has to commit to live by the laws of Bnei Noach, right, the Noahide laws, in order to be permitted to live in the Holy Land. Okay. Well, if we, the Jews, are citing Jewish law in order to say who may or may not live there, then we, the Jews, need to commit to do mitzvahs ourselves, right? So, good, we're learning Torah together. But I ask you to take on a little extra. If you're Jewish, you know what? Unless you really are involved in emergency services and lives depend on it, turn off your screens this Shabbos. Don't turn lights on and off. Be Shomer Shabbos for one Shabbos. If you live in Israel, please God, keep Shabbos. I think if more than half the Jews in Israel would keep one Shabbos, I think that could bring miracles. So take on yourself. It's something that we can do wherever we are. Take on an additional mitzvah. Be a little bit more machmir, a little bit more stringent with your Sabbath observance. If you're a Jewish woman and you haven't lit Shabbos candles, light them, right? If you usually keep that phone on and check it during Shabbos, don't. If you turn lights on and off, don't. If you don't usually bring, flowers into the house on Friday afternoon, bring them in. Make Shabbos more beautiful. Just do a little more. Do a little more, right? Live a little bit more of a Jewish life, a Torah mitzvah's Jewish life. And that's something that we can do. And the more that the Jews elevate their level, the greater security and safety and perhaps miraculous coming of peace sooner than we expect. Please, all of us, a little more Torah mitzvahs. That's what we can do. Okay. We are opening chapter 3 of Tractate Kiddushin, the 20th volume of the Talmud. Generally speaking, the laws of betrothal. Here, chapter 3, Mishnah number 1. With regard to one who says to another, one man says to another, go and betroth so-and-so, a woman, to me. And the second man went and betrothed the woman to himself. Was betrothal created? Yes, the second man. She is betrothed to the second man. And similarly, with regard to one who says to a woman, you are hereby betrothed to me after 30 days, and in the meantime another man came and betrothed her within those 30 days, she is betrothed to the second man. This is a full-fledged betrothal, so that if she is an Israelite woman who has become betrothed to a priest, she may partake of teruma, food that only priests and their families can eat. If the first man said to the woman, you are hereby betrothed to me from now, and only after 30 days shall the betrothal take effect, and another man came and betrothed her within those 30 days, there is uncertainty whether she is betrothed or whether she is not betrothed to each of them. Consequently, if she was the daughter of a non-priest betrothed to a priest, or the daughter of a priest betrothed to an Israelite, she may not partake of teruma. Since her betrothal is uncertain, the daughter of a non-priest cannot be considered the wife of a priest, and similarly, a priest's daughter who is doubtfully married to an Israelite loses her right to partake of teruma as the daughter of a priest. And needless to say, in that situation where there's uncertain betrothal to two different men, they both need to give her a get, a bill of divorce, and we start over because she can't be married to two men. All right, that's the Mishnah. Gemara. The Mishnah teaches that in the case of one man who says to another, go and betroth so-and-so to me, and the second man went and betrothed her to himself, some friend, right? You say to your friend, hey, go deliver this money and arrange betrothal between that beautiful woman that she and I love each other, and we're going to be betrothed. And the friend goes and sweet talks her, and then he betroths her, right? Great buddy. So one says to another, go and betroth so-and-so to me. And the latter went and betrothed her to himself. So she is betrothed to the second man, right? Because there was never a betrothal created with the first man. This guy violated the trust of his friend, but did he violate his agency in such a manner that no betrothal was created? Evidently not. A Tana, a rabbi of the Mishnah, taught concerning this issue, what he did is done. It is effective, and the woman is betrothed to the second man. But this second man has treated him, meaning the first man, in a deceitful manner. And it is prohibited to act in this fashion, right? Ab initio, you can't do this. Now that it's done, what can we do? The betrothal was created. But this is a guy who's going to have a bad reputation in the community after this. And the Gemara explains, and the Tana of our Mishnah, when he teaches the apparently superfluous term went, that he went and betrothed her, also indicates that he went and acted deceitfully. That second man acted deceitfully. The Gemara asks a question concerning the language of the Mishnah. What is different here that the Mishnah teaches with regard to one man who says to another? And what is different there in the previous chapter, at the end of chapter 2, that the Tana taught with regard to one who says to his agent, go and betroth a certain woman for me in such and such a place. And the agent went and betrothed her in a different place. And we said that no betrothal was created because the agent did not fulfill his agency as instructed. So why does the Mishnah there label him an agent and our Mishnah here just calls him another? When you say, go betroth that woman for me, don't you make him your agent? And if he doesn't follow his agency and in fact he takes advantage of the mission and it betroths her to himself, wouldn't we say that, what happened was the first agency was not fulfilled, and maybe that's another reason it actually backs up why the second betrothal is the one that was created and not the one that the first man intended, because the guy didn't fulfill his agency, that's for sure, even if he was an agent. But why are we calling him an agent in the first case? Where he said he didn't fulfill his agency by betrothing the woman on behalf of his principal in a different location than he was asked to do. And here, when he says, go and betroth her for me, we don't call her an agent. We don't call that second man an agent. We just say one says to another. That's the question being asked now. And the Gemara answers, and we're on 59a. Here, the Mishnah teaches us a novel element, and there it teaches us a novel element through its use of these very specific terms. The Gemara explains, the Mishnah here teaches us a novel element, as had it taught, if one says to an agent, go betroth her, I would say that it is his agent who is considered a scoundrel in that case, as one who sends an agent relies upon him, thinking he will perform my agency for me since he was sent for that purpose. But with regard to the use of the term another, who was not appointed and upon whom he does not rely as he is not technically his agent, you might say that he should not be considered a scoundrel. You might say. Similarly, the Mishnah there teaches us a novel element, as had it taught, one who says to another, go betroth her for me in a certain place. I would say that it is in the case of another that she is not betrothed, if he betrothed her in a different place, as he thinks that this person would not go to the trouble of looking for her elsewhere, and therefore he authorized him to betroth the woman only in that particular place. But with regard to his agent, who is assumed to take special trouble to fulfill his agency, you might say he is merely showing him the place where she is likely to be found, and she is betrothed in any case. The Mishnah therefore teaches us that even when he appointed an agent, she is not betrothed if he does not find her in the place the putative husband specified. Now the Gemara relates an incident. Ravin the pious was appointed an agent, and he went to betroth a woman for his son. Betroth a woman to his son. But in the end, Ravin the pious betrothed that woman to himself. And the Gemara raises a difficulty. But isn't it taught in the aforementioned Baraisa, what he did is done? But he has treated the principal in a deceitful manner. So how could a pious individual act in this fashion? He was going to go betroth a woman for his son, and then he ended up betrothing her to himself? If he's called Ravin the pious, why would he behave that way? Isn't the son going to be devastated when the father comes back and says, yeah, I was going to get you that wife, but I married her myself? And the Gemara answers, no, you don't understand the facts of that case. The woman's family would not give her to the son and agreed only to let her marry the father. So the Gemara further asks, even so, before betrothing her, he should have first informed his son that the family refused to let her marry him. And the Gemara explains that Ravin thought to himself, in the meantime, while I am busy reporting back to my son, someone else will come and betroth her. Better she should marry into our family. But is it better? Now the son is always going to look at his stepmom as the woman that should have been his wife? Is that really better? The Gemara relates a similar story. Rab Bar Chana gave money to Rav and said, purchase his land for me. Rav went and purchased it for himself. The Gemara asks, but isn't it taught in the Baraisa with regard to an agent who acts in this manner? What he did is done, but he has treated his principal in a deceitful manner. And the Gemara answers, the land was located in a valley inhabited by violent men who treated Rav with respect and were prepared to sell the land to him. But those violent men did not treat Rabba Bar Chana with respect, and they would not sell the land to him. So there was only one deal that could be made, and that was to Rav. So he bought the land for himself. Perhaps he's going to turn around and resell it since the man wouldn't sell it to the guy he was originally trying to get it for. But at any rate, he bought it for himself because no other deal could have been made. As in the case of Ravin, however, the Gemara questions this behavior. Nevertheless, Rav should have gone back and informed Rabbi Bar Bar Chana before buying it for himself. And the Gemara responds that Rav thought to himself, in the meantime, someone will come and purchase the land. Now that makes a lot more sense, right? The case of betrothing this woman, somebody's going to come along and betroth her while I'm reporting back to my son that, her family will marry to me but not to you. There's a lot of other elements going on there. But if we're just talking about, buying and selling, the world of finance, the world of contracts, yeah, if something is a hot property and you delay and don't buy it and you go back and report, they won't sell it to you, it could easily be gone by the time Rav comes back there. So the Gemara further relates, Rav Giddel was engaging in the acquisition of a certain plot of land. In the meantime, Rabbi Abba went and purchased it. Rav Giddel went and complained about Rabbi Abba to Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Zera went and complained about Rabbi Abba to Rav Yitzchak Nepacha. Rav Yitzchak Nepacha said to him, wait until Rabbi Abba ascends to visit us for the pilgrimage festival, when all come to hear the festival sermon, on which occasion we can discuss this matter with him. When Rabbi Abba ascended for the festival, Rav Yitzchak Nepacha found him and said to him, if a pauper is engaging in the acquisition of a loaf of bread that he found, and another came and took it from him, what is the law? Right? This is a little bit like the prophet Nathan, right? Nathan, rebuking King David, right, in the affair of Uriah and Bathsheba. So Rabbi Abba said to him, well, the one who took it away is called wicked. Right. Rabbi Yitzchak Nepacha replied, well, if so, what is the reason that you, the master, acted this way? Rav Giddel was negotiating the purchase of this land, and you came along and purchased it. Rabbi Abba said to him, I did not know that Rav Giddel was trying to acquire that land. Rabbi Yitzchak Nepacha retorted, well, now too, the master should give it to him, since you have been made aware that he submitted the first offer. Rabbi Abba said to him, well, as for selling, I will not sell it, as it is the first land I have ever purchased. And this matter of selling one's first acquisition is not a good siman. It's not a good omen. However, if Rav Giddel wants to accept it from me as a gift, let him take it, right? Rav wouldn't sell it. Rabbi Abba wouldn't sell it because he has this, this teaching that he clings to, that the first thing you buy, you shouldn't sell it. You could give it away, but you shouldn't sell it. So he's not going to sell it. But now that he's found out that, unbeknownst to him, Rav Giddel had already, entered negotiation, he's willing to step up and do the right thing, even though it's a great personal sacrifice. He says, I won't sell it to him, but I'll give it to him. That's a mensch. Rav Giddel heard about this, and he did not descend to claim this plot of land. Why didn't he want it as a gift? As it is written, Proverbs 15:27, but he who hates gifts shall live. And therefore, he did not wish to accept the land as a gift. Right? People don't want to be freeloaders. Rabbi Abba also did not descend to it because Rav Giddel was already engaging in the acquisition of it when he had acquired it. So in this manner, one sage did not descend to take the plot of land, and the other sage did not descend to take care of it, and it ended up being an abandoned plot of land that came to be known as the land of the sages. Not abandoned in the sense that, it was like just full of weeds. It became like a little park. Neither one of them developed it as he had intended to. The Mishna teaches, back to our Mishna, about this guy who sent his buddy to betroth a woman and the buddy to betroth her to himself. The Mishna teaches, and similarly with regard to one who says to a woman, be betrothed to me after 30 days, and another man came along and betrothed her within this period, she is betrothed to the second man. And the Gemara asks, in a case where another did not come and betroth her within the 30 days, what is the law? And Rav and Shmuel both say she is betrothed after 30 days, even if the money that he gave her for her betrothal has been used before the end of this period, as the betrothal takes effect from when the money is given. And the Gemara clarifies, what is the reason that she is betrothed despite the lack of money at the end of 30 days? And the Gemara explains that these dinars given to her for her betrothal are not comparable to a loan, nor are they comparable to a deposit that was transferred into her possession and subsequently lost. In both of these cases, she would not be betrothed. But rather, they are not comparable to a deposit, as a deposit is used in its owner's possession, i.e. any loss is incurred by the owner, whereas these are used in her possession, as he gave her the money to keep. And these dinars are also not comparable to a loan. A loan is given for spending, and therefore no money remains at the end of the betrothal, whereas these dinars were given to her from the outset for the purpose of betrothal. So the betrothal doesn't actually take effect until the end of the 30 days. He did give her, some item of value worth at least one peruta, and said, let's be betrothed at the end of 30 days. But he gave her the money at the outset. Okay, at the end of 30 days, there's betrothal. But until then, there's not. And that's why somebody else could come along and betroth her. Well, then what would happen to the money that the first guy gave her at the beginning? I guess she would be responsible to give it back to the first guy. The Gemara asks, if another did not come and betroth her, and she retracted her consent to the betrothal within 30 days, then what is the law? Rabbi Yochanan said she can retract her consent. Why? This statement by which she changes her mind comes and nullifies her previous statement when she agreed to the betrothal. And Reish Lakish said she cannot retract her consent, as her second statement does not come and nullify her previous statement. What's the law on this? If a man betrothed a woman on the condition that the betrothal should take effect after 30 days, and either of them retracts their consent during this period, the betrothal is nullified. Rabbi Yochanan raised an objection to Reish Lakish from a Mishna, Terumas 3:4. In a case where someone appointed an agent to separate teruma from his produce on his behalf, and he subsequently canceled the agency, the law depends on the following. If he canceled the appointment before the agent separated the teruma, his teruma is not teruma. And here it is a case involving one statement and a second statement, as the owner of the produce appointed the agent and rescinded his appointment by speech. And this shows that a statement comes and nullifies a previous statement. Reish Lakish replied, giving money to a woman is different, as it is considered like an action, and a mere statement does not come and nullify the action of the transfer of money. Rabbi Yochanan raised a further objection to Reish Lakish. With regard to one who sends a get, a bill of divorce to his wife, and later the husband encountered the agent or sent another agent after him, and in this manner said to him, the get that I gave you is nullified. Well, then it is nullified. And giving a get to an agent is considered to be like giving money to a woman. And yet, this Baraisa teaches that it is nullified, which indicates that speech can override even an action. Reish Lakish answered, there too, as long as the get has not reached the woman's hand, it is considered a case of one statement and a second statement. There is no halakhic significance to the transmitting of a get to an agent, as only its delivery to the wife is considered an action. Therefore, the act of transferring the get to the agent is of no consequence. And in this particular case, a statement comes and nullifies a previous statement. Reish Lakish raised an objection to Rabbi Yochanan. All vessels descend into their state of contracting ritual impurity by means of thought. Let's unpack that. A vessel can become tameh, right? There's different rules for vessels becoming tameh, depending on what kind of vessel they are. Is it made of clay? Is it made of glass? Is it made of metal? Etc. But one thing that is common to all vessels that can become tameh, ritually impure, and like if a clay vessel becomes impure, it needs to be smashed, it cannot be purified. But if a metal vessel becomes impure, it can be purified either through fire or through water. But a vessel, right, some kind of utensil like this, does not become susceptible to tuma, to ritual impurity, until it is finished, right? While it is being fabricated, it is not yet a vessel, and it is not a finished vessel, and it is not susceptible to tuma. So when does it become susceptible to tuma? when it's finished. When is it finished? Any artist can tell you, oh, no work of art, no work of craftsmanship is ever finished. It's only abandoned, right? And that's exactly what we're talking about here. Because let's say we're talking about a beautiful, a very talented silversmith, and he's making a Kiddush cup for a family. So when that Kiddush cup is finished, then it's susceptible to tumah. While he's still working on it, it's not. Well, let's say he's carving beautiful filigree into the silver Kiddush cup, and he's doing another one, and he's doing another one, he's doing another one. And he's got a plan that after he finishes this ring of filigree near the top, he's going to do another ring of filigree right beneath it. And then when he finishes the top ring, he looks at the Kiddush cup and he says, you know what? It's beautiful. It's done. I don't need to add that next ring of filigree. It's done now. He doesn't have to say any words. His thought, it's done, means is done, right? So this is a case where a thought actually has a consequence, a halachic consequence in the real world, right? You can decide that a vessel that you're fabricating is finished just with a thought, and that renders it susceptible to tumah. Now, you could then say, you know what? No, it's not done. It needs more work. Does a thought take it out of the realm of being a finished vessel that is susceptible to tumah? No. A thought can place it into that realm. But to take it back out of the realm of being a finished vessel that's susceptible to tumah, you actually have to take an action. Let's say you start carving that second ring of filigree, which is now you got to go all the way around the cup. Once you take that action to start the second, ring of engraving, now it has become an unfinished vessel again. But just deciding that I need to add that second ring does not make it an unfinished vessel. That's what they're teaching now. So Reish Lakish raised an objection to Rabbi Yochanan. All vessels descend into their state of contracting ritual impurity by means of thought. Although an unfinished vessel cannot become ritually impure, if the craftsman decided not to work on it any further, it immediately assumes the status of a completed vessel and it can become ritually impure. But they ascend from their state of ritual impurity only by means of a change resulting from an action. A ritually impure vessel, once it undergoes physical change, is no longer ritually impure, but it has to have physical change. 59b, an action undertaken to improve the vessel negates both the status created by an earlier action that supposedly completed the vessel and the status created by the thought not to perform any more work on the vessel. So in that case, the vessel cannot contract ritual impurity until the craftsman has finished working on it again. By contrast, a thought to improve the vessel negates neither, a thought to improve the vessel, to say it's unfinished, negates neither the status created by action nor status created by thought. So Reish Lakish finds this difficult for the following reason. Granted, thought does not negate action, as a statement does not come and nullify action, but it should at least offset thought, right? If you decided it was finished because you just decided, then can you not just decide that it's unfinished, right? Can a thought nullify a thought? This law indicates that a statement does not nullify a previous statement. And the Gemara answers, thought in the case of ritual impurity is different, as it is considered like action, and this is in accordance with the opinion of Rav Papa, as Rav Papa raises a contradiction with regard to the law that produce must become wet in order for it to contract ritual impurity. The verse states, but if water is placed upon the seed, any part of a carcass falls upon it, it is impure, right? Produce that has never come into contact with one of 7 liquids, it's just totally dry, it cannot become ritually impure. But once it has any contact with one of these 7 liquids, then it is susceptible to impurity. It could become impure if it came into contact with a source of impurity, like if a dead creeping thing fell into it. And the word yutan is written defective, and it is written as if it says ki yiten. So accordingly, this would mean that one must actively place the water on the produce. And yet we read it based on the tradition as to its correct pronunciation, ki yutan, which indicates any situation where the produce becomes wet, as opposed to if somebody purposely lets water come into contact with it, rendering it susceptible to impurity. So since the Torah has only consonants, it doesn't include the vowels, And this word with the same consonants could be pronounced in two different ways according to how it's vowelized. And those are two different, tenses, two different verb tenses, depending on how it's vowelized. It would actually teach a different law, right? That the produce can only become susceptible to becoming pure if it comes into contact with a source of impurity after it has first come into contact with one of these liquids: water, blood, milk, honey. I forget the other ones, oil. But now this coming into contact, it can either be read as if a person allowed water to come, or one of the liquids to come into contact with the produce, or if it happened. It just happened and a person had nothing to do with it. Now, wait a minute. The Rav Papa explains that the standard of if water is placed is similar to if one places the water, right? If it just happens, or if one does it. So just as the term places, yiten, indicates that it is satisfactory to the owner for the produce to become wet, as he himself is placing the water, so too the term is placed, yutan, means that it is satisfactory to the owner that the produce becomes wet, despite the fact that he did not place the water himself. And this is proof that thought is equivalent to action with regard to ritual impurity, as if one is satisfied with the produce becoming wet, it is considered as though he actively placed the water himself, but that you only know that as a thought. By the same reasoning, thought which renders a vessel susceptible to ritual impurity is powerful enough to require an action to counteract its effect. So the Gemara presents another version of the discussion. Rav Zevit taught this dispute with regard to this law, and similarly in a case where she gave permission to her agent to accept betrothal for her, and she subsequently went and accepted betrothal herself from someone else. If her betrothal came first, her betrothal is a valid betrothal. But if the betrothal of her agent came first, her betrothal is not a betrothal because she already became betrothed when her agent that she appointed for that task accepted betrothal for her. Makes sense. Now the sages discussed this law. If she did not accept betrothal herself and retracted her appointment of the agent, what is the law? Rabbi Yochanan says she can retract her appointment. Reish Lakish says she cannot retract her appointment. The Gemara clarifies their respective opinions. Rabbi Yochanan said she can retract her appointment because a statement comes and nullifies a previous statement by which she appointed the agent. And Reish Lakish said she cannot retract her appointment because a statement does not come and nullify a previous statement. Rabbi Yochanan raised an objection to Reish Lakish from the aforementioned Mishna with regard to one who appointed an agent to separate teruma on his behalf and subsequently canceled the agency. If he canceled the appointment before the agent separated the teruma is not teruma. This shows that a statement nullifies a previous statement. Rava says, with what are we dealing here? With a case where the homeowner preceded the agent and separated teruma from his heap himself, which is an action. And an action certainly nullifies a statement. Reish Lakish raised an objection to Rabbi Yochanan. All vessels descend into their state of contracting ritual impurity by means of thought, right? When you decide it's finished. But they ascend from their state of ritual impurity only by means of a change resulting from an action. An action undertaken to improve the vessel negates both the status created by an earlier action that supposedly completed the vessel and the status created by the thought that it was done and not to perform any more work on it. By contrast, a thought to improve the vessel negates neither status created by action nor status created by thought. Reish Lakish explains his objection. Granted, thought does not negate action, as a statement does not come and nullify action, but it should at least offset thought. And Rabbi Yochanan said to Reish Lakish, thought in the case of ritual impurity is different, as it is considered like action, and this is in accordance with the opinion of Rav Papa. As Rav Papa raises a contradiction, this is, on the words ki yiten and ki yutan, did the person seek to make his produce susceptible to tumor by letting it come into contact with liquid? Did he place the liquid there, or did he allow it to be placed there? And that discussion we had before. Rabbi Yochanan raised an objection to Reish Lakish with regard to one who sends a bill of divorce to his wife and later the husband encountered the agent or sent another agent after him. And in this manner he said to him, the bill of divorce that I gave you is nullified. Well, then it is nullified. And this indicates that the appointment of an agent can be nullified even by a statement. And the Gemara concludes, the refutation of the opinion of Reish Lakish is in fact a conclusive refutation. As is usually the case in debates between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, we follow Rabbi Yochanan. And the Gemara adds, and the halakha is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan, and this is even according to the first version of their dispute, with regard to a woman who retracts from her betrothal after accepting the money for it. And even though there is room to say that giving money to a woman for betrothal is different, as it is considered like an action, even so, a statement comes and nullifies a previous statement with regard to her consent to the betrothal, provided the betrothal has yet to take effect, right? Because the guy said, here's the money for the betrothal, but our betrothal will only take effect in 30 days. During the 30 days, either one of them can retract and not enter this betrothal. And, if another guy comes along during the 30 days and says to her, will you be betrothed to me? And she says, yes. So she retracts her first agreement with that 30-day betrothal. She retracts out of it, and now she can accept betrothal from the second guy who comes along, and that would be a valid betrothal to the second guy. And the Gemara asks, I'm almost done. Questions or comments, please get them in now. And the Gemara asks that the law recorded here is different with regard to the law recorded elsewhere. You said that the law is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan, and yet we maintain that the law is in accordance with the opinion of Rav Nachman. As the dilemma was raised before the sages, what is the law in the case of a get sent by an agent that the husband nullified before it was received by his wife? Can the husband return and divorce his wife with the very same get? Rav Nachman says he can return and divorce her with it. And Rav Sheshes says he cannot return and divorce her with it. And we maintain that the law is in accordance with the opinion of Rav Nachman in this case. By contrast, according to the ruling of Rabbi Yochanan, since the husband has nullified the get, it should no longer be valid. And the Gemara answers, La Kasha, this is not difficult, as although the husband has nullified the agent from his status as an agent to deliver the get, the husband has not nullified the get itself, the bill of divorce itself, from its status as a get, and so therefore he could tell the agent, forget it, don't go, your agency is canceled, give me the get, and then he can deliver that get to his wife himself, and that would be a divorce. That's what I've got for us today. Okay, Nina was tied up, so she was not able to scan. Looks like there's a lot of conversation about what's going on the college campuses. Yeah. Sharon mentions that today a 19-year-old Columbia University was beaten with sticks outside of the library just for being a Jew. Did you think that we would live in such times? The environment at the universities is terrible right now for Jews, and I am ashamed to say that my alma mater, Harvard, is at the top of the heap for handling this situation in a disgraceful manner. Absolutely disgraceful. People who refuse to condone raping women, burning babies, beheading babies, burning elder. We don't need to recite the litany of horrors. May we soon see a day where there's not only peace and security, but where the academy, the institutions of education in America are much more about education, real learning, than imposing political viewpoints. That's all I'm going to say about that. My friends, please join me in asking, please God, keep our brothers and sisters in Israel safe. Keep our brothers and sisters, the Jewish people, everywhere in the world safe. We're in the midst of a day of rage that's been called. I've heard about some incidents. I believe there was a killing in Paris or somewhere in France because of this day of rage. May we be safe. May we soon restore peace. God, please protect all your innocent children, all your innocent children. May we soon see a day when war and bloodshed are no more with the coming of Mashiach, and we'll understand what all this war and bloodshed was really about. Let us say Amen. Good job.